morning. What's happening there?
The Michael Labersi, how are you today, man?
Doing all right, man. Now that I added myself to the scene, I'm good.
It's
It is
important that you're
awesome.
here. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Total Disruption. We're hanging in there today. We're bringing you some really good information on, I got like three or four topics. And the first one I want to talk about is the emergence of the aging athlete. And there's hope for all of us sort of second chancers out there. Kind of started getting popular with Tom Brady in football. You had Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, obviously golf, right? Those guys have been doing it forever. But I'm talking more about the contact sports, where you're physically getting broken regularly, and you see Phil at the time of this recording. Philip Rivers came out of retirement, younger guy, but 5 years out of football, which is 5 years outside of going fast. The guy's doing well. I saw Aaron Rodgers playing a football game last night. My goodness. Granted, the guy had all kinds of time defensively, but just athletically, I looked like he was whipping the ball. Like, man, this guy's in his 40s. You saw Tom Brady playing at a high level, Peyton Manning. I mean, I'm so impressed with it. Goes to show you, with if you take care of yourself and you kind of have a plan and you stay and navigate outside of catastrophic disasters, right? Like, you can do things for a long time, even at a high level. Maybe not as high, but I'm thinking we should throw that caveat out there. Oh, Aaron Rodgers isn't as good as he used to be. Oh, Philip Rivers isn't as good as. I'm so I'm so sick of that comparison. It's not what used to be. You don't have what used to be. What used to be is over. You have what it is now. In other words, a 45-year-old guy is doing a hell of a lot better job than some rando 20-some-year-old guy. It's obvious. It's not what used to be. It's what is, right? What do you take? You're a do it kind of person. Like, what are you thinking when I'm bringing this up here?
Well, and I agree with you, man. I can't stand that statement. Well, you're not as good as you used to be, and that's sure. If I'm saying it, it might be one thing, but if somebody else is saying it, it's crap. Like, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to have that secondary one that's going to come up of, well, for as old as he is, he's doing really well. It's such a crap cliche set of words. Like, I absolutely can't stand that. It's like, all right, where am I today? I mean, there's you can play biblical stuff if you want, and we can go to Ecclesiastes and we can talk about you're not supposed to be focused on the past, you're not supposed to be focusing on the future. What is right now? Focus on what is present. Now that is a massive truncated version of a large book, but the reality is, how well are you doing in the moment right now? And I love the fact that you're using the aging athlete concept because it opens that door of possibility, right? These guys are at one time, it was not believed that, it was believed that 40 years old was entirely too old to be playing in professional sports, couldn't possibly compete with the younger athletes. That's a limiting belief that was previously believed. And yet, what are we seeing? We're seeing guys that are saying, all right, I don't buy into that bunk. Aaron Rodgers, an example. It isn't the fact that he is just some crazy uber athlete, he's made in a test tube or whatever. Tom Brady, doesn't matter, pick your guy. They made a choice. They made a decision. And they said, all right, in order for me to compete at the level I'm going to have to compete at, I had to work really hard in my 20s. I'm going to have to work really hard, and I'm going to have to be really purposeful, really specific. My diet's going to look different. My exercise routine is going to look different. How I take care of myself is going to look different so I can perform at a level such that I have that competitive edge. That's what we're seeing, is we're seeing guys that are making the decision to do it. They've always had the ability. We're human beings. We're not GMO'd, right? That's not what we are. We were built this way from the beginning. It's what we are. And we've always had this ability to do it. We just have some guys that are like, my mindset is such that, yeah, I can do it. I just have to do it differently in order to do it. That's all it is.
Well, I tell you what we're not seeing, though. Where is everybody else? Again, I'm a fan of this, right? It is what it is. But where's the other part of the sampling? How many, there's probably 5 million football players in the United States and maybe around the world, probably more than that. But out of 5 million people, right, only a handful make it to the NFL. Each team has about 40 people. There's about, 40 teams, done, right? You can do the math. I'm not doing the math for you. But outside of that, you've got a bunch of 20 somethings, you got a bunch of 30 somethings, and you got a bunch of 40 somethings still rolling around, kind of playing club ball, warm up squads, Canadian League football. You mean to tell me that out of no one else on the planet, you need to go back to these superstars, which again is a testament. Doesn't matter their age, a superstar is a superstar. Or there's a weird filtration process that no one, I don't even know. Again, we're only really kind of focusing on the NFL
Well,
here.
I think the way you, I think
Holy
the, I think the answer to that, you say superstars, and I think that's true. I think you've got a group of guys, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, the go back to Jordan days. I think you've got a group of guys that do not know how not to compete. They don't know how to play at any other level than the level they're playing at. And they're figuring out, okay, I have to do something different to play at that level. I think you have a group of guys that just don't even know that there is something else. Like it's literally that their brain is so trained, so focused, their body, they've been building at this for so long to just say, I aged out. That's just not even in their vocabulary. I just don't even think
right,
they can speak the language.
right. Well, I it begs to say then, okay, what's the plan then for everybody else, right? And what path is everybody on, right? So my kids are in youth sports, and there's many iterations of exercise preparation and longevity. You do see a ton of people starting to invest a ton of money, time, and energy into athletic training at a young age, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and pouring it on. And then you're playing your games and you're doing your prep work and you're training. And now that's not bodybuilding for those of you out there making your muscles just bigger. It's resistance training and different modalities and methodologies that make your muscles more elastic and pliable. And then there's skill training that makes your hand-eye coordination better. And all this is an attempt to make your body perform better at the ready, perform longer, and perform at a high level so that you can enjoy what you're doing, qualify for what you're doing, or super exceed at what you're doing. But all that is also enough wear and tear on the body that says, okay, none of these guys, I promise you, Philip Rivers and Aaron Rodgers and even Tom Brady developed his own system. But like those guys weren't doing what everyone else was doing. Granted, they're a skill position player, they're not linemen or whatever, but still, they weren't doing what everyone else is doing. They had a whole regimen to operate at a high level at a long term. I mean, think about it, right? What is Aaron Rodgers? 43, 4, 5?
Right.
Guy's only got 40 more years of life left, maybe 50. Spent half of it playing football. Most of it, not half, but most of it playing football. So clearly, when we talk about pace and we talk about what you're doing and we talk about what you're planning and how you're preparing and the long-term vision, it's hard not to get caught up in the hype. And it's difficult not to get caught up in the hype, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to stay your own course. It's difficult to be a trendsetter. It's difficult to be a trailblazer. And it's even rarer enough to make it to show it, right?
Agreed.
So in your, you're an expert, what do you call yourself? What's archer, right?
Yeah.
You're an expert in the archery and you practice every day. Now, do you over practice every day? And let's qualify what over practicing means. I mean, like if you draw your bow back 300 times a day
Oh.
versus 150 times a day. I'm not even talking about release. You just
Mm-hmm.
draw your bow back. Is 300 better than 150? If you do 300, can you not do 300 for sustainably for 2 years? Because after a while you get elbow problems. Like in other words, let's talk about while we're here, while we're on this, and while we're kind of segueing into this longevity piece on business and life and prep, and not falling into pressure and hype. Well, what do you think, man? When I'm like, hey, what's your difference?
So there's a lot of, all right, with the bow, it matters what I'm training for, right? Because there's different events that I would train for. If I'm going to go shoot a 3D archery tournament that I know I've got 40 targets that I've got to shoot over the course of 8 hours. Now that's only 40 arrows. However, I've got to be able to shoot every single arrow exactly the same, right? So that's only 40 arrows. Versus if I go to Vegas, I'm going to shoot probably in the course of a week, I'm going to shoot close to 1,000 arrows, right? So that's two completely different training pieces, but they're also completely different training, two different bows altogether that I'm doing that. And I'm training differently for hunting season, completely different thing for hunting season. Um, by and large, I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot 50 arrows a day, regardless. I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot 50 a day. That's simply for muscle and joint stabilization. So I can just keep the frame built the way it needs to be built, right? I'm going to keep my shoulders good and flexible and pliable and strong, my elbows good and strong. I'm going to keep my, everything so it lines up so that I'm not just one day picking up the bow and say, well, I'm going to walk out and shoot this tournament. It's a very specific regime to do it. Now, as I get older, there was a time that I used to shoot easily 1,000+ arrows a week, every week, did it all the time. And I was in my, all the way into, honestly, up till the time I was in my 40s, that I was shooting probably 1,000 arrows a week, just
Okay.
consistently. I'd go out and I'd shoot 150, 200 arrows a day, at different things, depending on what I was doing. And I didn't have that problem. As I am aging, I'm finding I don't need to shoot that many arrows a day to perform at the level that I am performing at. Now, if I want to amp it up, I'm going to have to shoot more arrows. But that also means I'm going to probably have to reduce the weight on my bow to practice, right? I'm going to build specific muscle memory, because if I'm shooting too much weight and I get tired, I'm going to start doing stupid things. I'm going to start having glitches here and there. So I know if I've got to shoot more arrows, I've got to reduce the weight, because I've got to be able to shoot endurance. And it's not different from running. It's just a process in what this is and how you're going to do it. If I'm going, through the summertime, I'm going to shoot a lot of arrows. I'm going to shoot 50 to 100 or more arrows a day, every single day. And then there's going to come a point about August 1st, I stop altogether. And I will walk out of the house and I will go out and I will shoot one perfect arrow. One. That's my practice session. I will go out and I'll shoot one time. Doesn't mean I'm not still lifting weights. Doesn't mean I'm not still stretching. Doesn't mean I'm standing holding form. It means I'm going to go out and shoot one perfect arrow. And I'm going to practice doing that, because you get one opportunity during hunting season. That's what it is. So again, it depends on what I'm practicing for, specifically on how I'm going to set that up. If I got to shoot 40 perfect arrows, then I need to be able to shoot 100 to make sure when I go to the tournament I can shoot 40. If I need to shoot 1,000 in 10 days, I've got to make sure I can shoot 2,000 in 10 days a month before that. So it's just a matter of what's the strength I need to use. I've got to be twice as good in practice as I am in tournament. 100% true. Go back to the days of Jordan. He used to say, yeah, he played in practice 110, 125%, and he never had to give more than 50% in a game, because he practiced so much harder than he did when he went to the game. And I think some of that is true when you're talking Aaron Rodgers and you're talking Tom Brady. I mean, I've seen these guys' workouts when they're going after it. And it translates straight into everyday business. It translates into what you're doing every single day. I firmly believe you have to work twice as hard in practice as you do in game. That's my firm belief. If I'm going to break it right down to that, I think you got to work twice as hard in practice in order to perform. And there's what's the book? Is it might be Fierce Conversations, to where
Okay.
he's an FBI guy, ex FBI guy, and they talk about practice that they have to do, and the research says you're only 25% good as under pressure as you were in practice. So that's why they talk about endless pistol training and endless psychiatric training, and they drill, because they said under duress, you're only 25% as good as you were in practice. So I think that's a good segue into that of why we got to
Yeah.
work that hard.
Well, I agree, but I picked up something from you where I mean, I realize we always have that sort of what am I training for? What am I training for? But we don't want to lose the love of the thing, right? Like
Hmm.
back when I was doing a ton of calisthenics and doing a lot of different body shape yoga, handstands, and training, I would just go into those things as uh, I would train different entry points, different exit points, length of holds. I was just exploring the edge and having a lot of fun doing it. But I did realize that it's at some point the difference between an enthusiast, a person that's obsessed, and then just a weekend warrior. And it's okay to get into something and realize, hey, I think I'm just a weekend warrior. Um, and that's okay too, right? Not everybody's going to be in things for the long haul. It's the person I get concerned about that gets all into something, and which is cool, and then says, shoot, I'm really not into this, right? But again, you've immersed yourself, and then you've immersed yourself into something else, and you've immersed yourself into something else. You can't quite find the right fit. And it's not that you're trying to find the right fit, you're just running into things that have ceilings. And you have to understand that you got to be comfortable at some point with a ceiling. You can't win every game. You can't play at a high level every game. You can be in every game, but you can't play at a high level every game. It's just not. It's humanly impossible. All the great people have done it. We see it. Everybody. Just as many strikeouts as at bats. Just as many fumbles as touchdowns. Just as many losses as wins. Um, just as many whatevers as whatevers. Whatever the loss to success column ratio is. It's that mental checkpoint where you realize, hey, I'm going beyond myself here. And even despite all odds, I'm going to try to be great. I'm going to try to be this. I'm going to try to shoot 40 perfect arrows. I'm going to try to shoot my 4,000 arrows in a minute. And I'm going to try to get it done. And I'm going to try to do it. There's where we're talking about, right? We're talking about that sweet spot of the people that are spending that time and they're working through it. And then we're going to get into a business idea. Those of you out there that are really good at what you're doing, are you applying that to your notoriety? Are you expanding your knowledge base and teaching other people? Are you going down the road from enthusiast to educator? I often run into a ton of people that are so smart. Not everybody belongs being an educator, but I believe, and I know you believe it too, Jake. It's why we started Total Disruption to be a disruptor. Nobody knows more about the thing you're teaching and talking about than you. And if you're a person out there and you're hearing me say this, I've said this a million times, and you have a calling, I think it's a great opportunity to start trying to teach people the skills, the methodology, the mindset, and the practice to get that constant mastery in whatever it is you're trying to do. I
It's a
think it's
part
time
of
for
the path to mastery. It's a major part of it. Look at every martial arts master that you can possibly name, and there's plenty of them. Do they have a dojo? Do they teach? Yes. Not just because they like to teach, because it is part of the path to mastery. Like you've got to teach the thing. And to Mike's point, nobody knows more about the thing you're amazing at than you.
I don't I don't care if you have two of the same karate disciplines. Chances are, if you really boiled it down, or two of the same archers, or two of the same yoga practitioners, if you really boiled it down, there's infinitesimal differences between everybody. There's approaches, there's body types, there's
Hmm.
levers, there's strengths, there's weaknesses, there's predispositions. There are so many things out there that differentiate that, again, no two human beings are alike. But there's enough carryover where if you study from different people and you have more than one teacher and you're out there doing your 100 reps and your 100 hours, or you're out there with your one perfect shot, and you're that kind of person that says, wait a minute, let me try this way. let me all of a sudden make this situation a little bit more custom. Let me stop parodying and let me start actually owning. And that's where teaching comes in. Because when you teach, and I've taught, I can't tell you how many thousands of sessions of different things, techniques and strengths and yogas and um, sort of NLP related coaching techniques, tips, resiliency. So have you. It's in that moment that you realize you don't know more than somebody. But what you know is that you've been down this road a little longer and you're enlightening this person and you're actually trying to give as much knowledge to that person as you can so they go beyond where you went. You're giving them a pull and then you're turning around and giving them a push. You're pulling them along and then you're pushing them up. Now, when I say that, what do you think about all that? That mentor
I
mentee
agree with
model.
that analogy 100%. And as we're talking about it, you said that, we're not every person can teach the same way. Well, not every person learns the same way either. So when this is part of the mastery piece is when you have to teach, like if I'm going to teach one of my daughters archery, if I'm going to work with her, go back to the archery analogy, because that's what I know
All
is
right.
what I teach, right? If I'm going to teach one of them how to shoot a bow and I'm going to teach Mike how to shoot a bow, it's not going to go the same, right?
No.
They are not the same people. I am not going to be able to demonstrate this. I can say, here's what I want you to do. They're not going to do it the same way the minute that they pick it up. So I'm going to have to adjust Mike's elbow a little bit. Mike's going to be very mechanical in what he's going to want, right? He's going to be looking for specific form. There's some techniques that we got to do there versus one of my daughters. They're going to have it's going to be more of a strength thing initially. I'm going to have to teach them a different way to draw the bow for form versus Mike's he's plenty strong. He can pull it back. That's not an issue, but he's going to have some little mechanical things. I've got to be able to teach a different way to get to the same result because not everybody's going to learn the exact way. And that's again the path to mastery piece, right? Because now I've got to, as the master, okay, I don't ever call myself that because I think it's a journey. And I think it's a little misogynist to call myself that. But however, I'll call myself the master for archery today because it's kind of fun. As that, I've got to understand that my students all have different needs. And in order to teach that, I am going to have to learn different ways to do the same thing to facilitate the same result. The same is true with your business. Not all customers are the same. Not all employees are the same. Not everybody fits into a single box. You've got to get real clear, real quick on being able to use those different modalities, those different training techniques, those different language, that different leadership styles in order to connect with your people, in order to connect with your audience, in order to connect with your customers.
Yeah, if you're teaching me how to shoot a bow, you're gonna clear out 2 miles to the right, 2 miles to the left, and be like, this dude's gonna hit somebody. I've got to compensate for that arrow flying through the air, so I need to just clear out. Like we're going in the middle of the desert, right?
That's valid, right?
With the wind in
There's
my back,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
you're
Mike's
gonna
going to need a bigger backstop because he's going to
you're
try
gonna
to do. Yeah, he's going to get
you're gonna
off
catch
off
me behind
character
you.
a little bit.
No, I think it's fascinating. I think there's a lot of people on the fence out there that are enthusiasts that are looking to get a little more involved in the teaching and coaching space. And if you're on the fence, man, get off the fence. Get in the middle of that teaching and coaching space. Get in there, like figure it out, and I mean, we'll help you. Right? Look us up on Total Disruption, but we'll definitely help you.
Yeah, fastest way, direct messages to reach out to us. Just direct messages on whatever your favorite social media platform may be. Make sure you like and subscribe. Like. Make sure you leave reviews if you're listening to us on whatever your podcast station is. We love reviews. Let us know that you did it. We'd love to thank you. And then reach out to us. We've got some cool things that we're building for 26. We've got very cool conferences that we're building for 26. Some other things, we've got the coaching cohort model, which is a completely different animal. Reach out to us about what your needs are in your universe. Let's see if we can facilitate it, because if we can't, we know somebody that can.
Amen. Well, with that being said, if you are one of those people that wants to, again, shine your light bright, you really should DM us and check out what we've got going on. Or if you just need coaching to the next level, a little bit of accountability, a little bit of a push. We help people all the time. It's a shame that you need some help and you're holding back on getting it. We're definitely the right crew for you. All right, man. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. I feel like we've said all we needed to say. On behalf of Dr. Jay Clendenning, I'm Mike Libersi. Thanks for tuning into Total Disruption. Now it's your turn to disrupt.